Hi, this is Jesse with Closing the Loop. I just wanted to make a video about tomatoes. There's a thing out there, and it probably applies in certain situations, but if you have the space for it, the recommendation that I have for tomatoes is not to trellis them up and or to string them up in some way. A lot of times you'll hear people tell you that, but you'll actually set yourself up for a lot more production if you don't do that, and I'll show you what I mean. So this is a tomato plant. I bought this cherry tomato plant at Costco. I will very likely be starting them from seed next year. These are some of the tomatoes that I just gathered today, and they're really sweet, really delicious. But I have basically just allowed them to kind of take over. I have not been propping them up in any way, or trellising them in any way, or stringing them up in any way. And so this is what the tomato plant does naturally. What it does naturally is that it weighs itself down with its leaves. The tomatoes do a lot to weigh it down too. You can see how many tomatoes I have. One of the reasons why people usually recommend that you don't have the plants close to the ground has to do with mold, but that really isn't a concern as long as you're not tilling things up, or you don't want the mold that's in the ground to basically get on the leaves or to get on the tomatoes. So you just leave it undisturbed. You want to have a good layer of mulch and or leaves. I love to use leaves, and that is the other thing that I highly recommend, is that you plant your tomatoes in leaves. A lot of times people think that they need to be planted in dirt, but tomatoes actually really love growing their roots out in leaf mold. So if you have some leaves that have been sitting around for at least a year, then you can just go ahead and use that method. And so what the plant does is it literally starts to root itself down. I'm not going to try and lift it too much, but this is actually anchored. This is anchored to the ground. And I just felt the roots give a little when I pulled on it. But so this is what it does. It sends out its stems, or its vine, or its stalk, or whatever you want to call it, and then it roots itself wherever it can in the ground. It'll root itself. And I mean, just look at the production. I have clusters of tomatoes all over the place. I mean, there's just really no end in sight. I have so many tomatoes set up for me. And so this is what you can expect if you just kind of leave it be, just let it do its own thing. This is a plant that I got in it was a 1 gallon container, and I'll just show you. So this is, just for comparison, this is a 5 gallon container. This is a 5 gallon container, and look at the plant. This is easily 5 to 6 times, maybe 7 times bigger than when I bought it. So one little plant can become this giant thing. I mean, it's taking up, it's probably 4 by 4 foot, and you can see all the flowers. There are a ton of flowers all over the place, and you have tomatoes at the bottom there. So that's my recommendation for tomatoes. I'm not the first one to post information similar to this. I saw another guy on YouTube that recommended the same thing. He basically just said, just let them go, let them do their own thing, and they'll just keep setting down roots. I mean, just look at all the tomatoes. And the other thing is to let them grow in leaf mold. So all this stuff here it might look like soil, but it's actually just a bunch of leaves. I mean, this is layers upon layers of leaves. And it'll take a while before I get to any actual soil. So they love this stuff. These are leaves that I collected in the fall of last year. These are actually, these roots right here are roots from the tomato. These are tomato roots right here. So I probably shouldn't be doing this, but for the purposes of the video, I will make the sacrifice. So there you go. I like that. That's really cool. See the sun? Oh yeah. It's like my ear is enlightened. Anyway, this is Jesse with Closing the Loop. What was the point I was trying to make? I was just going to say that a lot of times people overcomplicate things and they will make excuses. You know, this is a plant that I planted, I watered it initially, I let it do its own thing. With all the leaves and all the mulch that's been set down, the roots have so much water available to them. I haven't had to water other than initially when I planted it. So I probably did a week of watering it, and once I saw that it was doing okay, I let it be, and I haven't watered it since. And it's doing really, really good on its own, completely without any intervention on my part. All I do at this point is go in and grab the tomatoes that I feel are ready to be picked, and that's it. That's all I do. So, so that's why I recommend this method. I like things that are as close to natural as possible. So, you know, granted, I bought this at Costco, and I personally love to see volunteers. I love to see things that just come up naturally, and I find that they tend to do a lot better. But this is a really good method to use, and it doesn't really require that much time or effort. And so, if you found the information informative, please do do subscribe. I do plan on making a lot more videos. I have a lot of different things in the works. I haven't really done anything recently because I've just been working on so many different projects around the garden, and but I have a lot more tutorials coming up, so stay tuned. Take care. Jesse with Closing the Loop out. This is Jesse with Closing the Loop, signing out.